This is going to be the only personal development video that you're going to need to watch. And you'll hear me talk about personal development very often on this channel. And you'll also hear me regurgitate a lot of information. You'll hear me say the same things. And let me be very clear, I do that purposely. If you've listened to a few of my videos and you're like, dude, he's saying the same thing, what I am trying to do is I am trying to feed you into the same loop, because these are the loops that we need to get fed into, right? I follow a bunch of accounts on Twitter. I follow a bunch of YouTubers. I listen to a lot of podcasts. And what I do is I don't listen to new videos, I listen to the same videos. I believe I've been listening to like the same 4 podcasts for like 5 months now, on repeat, almost to where I can predict what they're saying next because I've heard it for so long. And not only that, I listen to the same things on repeat until I literally embed it into my subconscious and I implement it. So you'll hear me do the same thing here because I think what's valuable is recall, not additional information. Additional information is fun, right? It's new, it's exciting, it's a stimulus, we get stimulated. But what really matters is the ability to recall information. And beyond recollection of information, the most important thing is acting upon what we already know, which I think is the hardest part about personal development. So the thing is, personal development keeps you in a loop of consuming. It's not designed to transform your life. It's designed to keep you wanting more. Like everything in life, you can think of it as a drug. You get a hit of it and you love the feeling and you want more hits of it. And then you build a tolerance to it and then you want more, right? So you read one personal development book and you love it. You love how it makes you feel. You feel like, oh my gosh, I've just discovered the secrets of the universe and I feel so good. And you want to read another one. And you're going to want to read another one. And then you're going to want to read another one. And it seems like you need more. You've built a tolerance to this. Each book is not enough now. And because what happens is we stay in the same area. There are only so many personal development books that you have to read until you realize that they're all trying to just teach you how to do the same thing in different ways. And what they're trying to teach you is take control of your mind, implement micro habits, play the long game, build momentum, leverage the momentum, stay consistent, and that's it. And just do the hard things. They teach you how to do the same things in different ways, and you'll find that it gets overwhelming. Then you don't know how to act. The reason why a lot of us, including myself, we read so many personal development books, and the next thing you know, we don't know what to do. We don't know how to act. It's because we are fed multiple ways to do one thing. If we need help getting up early, one personal development book will tell us, jump in an ice cold shower. One will say, picture your loved ones dying and go. One will say, do it for future you. One will say, set the phone farther away so you have to get up. One person will say, take melatonin. One book will say, red light therapy. And it's like, what the heck do I do? It's all different methods to do one thing. I need you to understand that personal development fails when it focuses on what you need to add. More habits, more goals, more routines. Now, true transformation, I'm talking about the kind that shakes you to your core. It rewires your neural pathways and your way of thinking. It doesn't come from adding. It comes from subtracting, getting rid of things that you don't need. You don't add more things that you think you need. You identify everything that's there, and you're like, well, okay, now it's time to get rid of things. When you can subtract, when you can strip away from thought patterns, beliefs, and distractions that just no longer serve you, that's when you'll change. So in this video, I don't want to consider it another guide. kind of like a blueprint. I'm going to lay it out. You do what you want with it. And I hope that it'll be the only blueprint that you'll need to master your mind. The only blueprint that you'll need to kind of rebuild your foundation, see the pillars that are present, and perhaps strip them down, break them down, and rebuild. So let's dive in. And the first one I want to talk about energy and, to a degree, authority. These are almost hidden forces that have shaped your life up until this very moment. What I'll do is I'll start with something that no one has ever told you. And if you've heard this before, congratulations, you're on a good path already. Your life is not shaped by conscious decisions. Conscious means here. I am awake. I see outside that is a tree. I see this way the sun is beaming at my face. I am conscious. My perception and all my touch, my feeling, instincts, they're there. They're present. And to a degree, I am in control. That's conscious. Your life isn't shaped by conscious decisions. It's shaped by these invisible forces. Beliefs, patterns, and there are definitely scripts that just run your life. They run your life over and over in the background of your mind. Think of it right here in the back. What happens is, until you can get to a point where you bring these forces to the surface, you'll kind of remain stuck because there's someone in the back pushing you, pulling you, something in the back pushing you, pulling you in the same cycles, no matter how hard you try to break free. It's almost like a programming, right? So if you can't bring these things to the front and discard of them or take control of them, there are programming set. Almost like, think of a computer. A computer has a programming and a code that goes, if CPU gets hot, then freeze all applications, then shut down, right? So it follows a if, then do this type of code. Your mind is the same way, especially if we talk about the subconscious and the unconscious mind. Your subconscious mind has a set of programs that go, if this, then that. So I want to use an example of, let's say, someone that smokes cigarettes, or they vape, or they consume stimulants. We'll use nicotine. It's a very common stimulant. Your subconscious mind goes, if stress, then smoke. And so you're not even being pulled by conscious decisions. You're stressed, and it's almost like you'll gravitate towards a cigarette. Pick up the vape. Because if stress, if increase in thought, if increase in heart rate, then puff, then inhale, then smoke. And next thing you know, you're doing it without even needing to think. Because when you need to think about doing something, it requires direct, targeted thought, purposeful, definitive. But if you're doing something that's habitual, it just occurs as a byproduct of a code that's deeply embedded in the back. We're going to call these scripts. Okay, so it's really good to understand these. These are unseen energies that really are responsible for shaping your life. These are forces that shape your life, right? Let's use another example. Let's use someone that trains. If pain, then stop, right? If hurts, then stop. If too hard, then stop. That's not us calling the shots. That's something back here calling the shots in the back of our head. It's a code. We go to the gym, we feel pain, we do a few reps, and it hurts, stop. If we were to bring that to the front, we can see it. We're not just unaware of it. We see it. We're like, oh wow. My mind is saying, if pain, then stop. What if I can shift that? What if pain, then 5 more? To change something, you need to be aware of what it is that you need to change, because if you're not aware of it, then you're ignorant. And well, to a degree, it's bliss. But ignorance can be damaging. There's a degree to where ignorance is blissful, and there's a degree to where ignorance is just damaging, because it's your own ignorance that holds you back. Right? So there are these unseen, architectures of your beliefs, and I'll dive into this as well. Right now, your life, your career, your relationships, your habits, it's built on a foundation of beliefs. Some of these beliefs serve you, most of them do not. And the kicker is you definitely didn't choose them. They were given. If we think about it, let's use an example to where you were a kid and you may have struggled with math and someone said, you're just not a numbers person. If you fast forward 20 years, now look at you. You've avoided finances or analytics because you've inherently been bad at it and you believe you're just not a numbers person. The belief isn't real. It's a story that you've been living by and that you've been trying your best to act to prove that it is true. We act because there is a story we believe and we feel like it's our moral obligation to make the story true. Let's use someone highly ambitious. I will make it. I'm different. I will do this. And every single day, their actions are directly targeted at how can I make this narrative, this story true? That's someone ambitious. Let's say there's someone that is consumed by negative thought, negative energy. It's someone that's consumed by disbelief, lack of belief. Every day, their actions, they begin to even purposely act to make that narrative true. I am not this, I cannot do this. And so their actions directly align. If you can rewrite that story, you will rewrite your life. So let's break down this process. Right? We talked about this invisible force, and we talked about narratives that we try to uphold. They shape our life, and it's our job to rewrite them. So if we break this down to a process to where you can actually use it, we first need to identify one belief that's holding you back. Maybe it's, I'm not creative. I'm not special. I can't do anything. I'll never be successful. I don't give a damn what you do. You can think it. You can write it down, pen and paper. You can open your phone and write it. Then ask yourself, where did this belief come from? Was it someone telling this to you? Was it just one failure that turned you into this person that lived by that rule? Trace it all the way back to the origins. And if you can do that, you'll see where it came from. You'll realize it's just not absolute. It's just a perspective. And that's all it ever will be. A lot of things are perspectives. The reason I can say that is because my whole life, I've lived up to perspectives. At 19 or 20 in the military, I wanted to do something big with my life. And it was a perspective. It's because I felt obligated to do something magical and worthy. I felt like it was my duty to do something. It wasn't. I just perceived my life to be something that should be special. And every day I try to take action to make that perception true. I'm like, well, if I'm in a court of law and the opposing side says, hey, your life isn't special, I need to present to the judge a strong enough stack of evidence that says my life should be special. So I should probably take action. That's all it ever was. The truth was my life wasn't supposed to be special. I wasn't supposed to do anything. I wasn't supposed to take any risks. But I wanted to, and I thought it should have been. I thought my life should have been something monumental. I thought my life should have been something magnificent. So I took action to try to back up that belief, back up that claim. Now that, I would throw that into, I don't like positive and negative because they're just, it's a little bit more complex than that, but we'll throw that into the positive side of thinking. Negative side of thinking is, well, I'm not meant to do anything. And then you'll begin to create a stack of evidence to back that up because you're like, well, this is a story, this is a perception, this is a belief. I should probably try to believe it. There's nothing worse than believing something that you can't back up. So if you believe something negative about yourself, you're going to try to back it up. And if you don't have anything to back it up, you'll back it up by your actions. You'll find things. Oh, I'm not special. I don't really have any gifts. Oh, I'm not special. 5 years ago when I did this, I tried. Nothing happened. Oh, I'm not special. This and this and this. Oh, I'm not special. I mean, look at what I did yesterday. I didn't really do anything. Look at all the people doing great things. You are trying to back up the wrong case. You need to be fighting for the other case, which is you can. And if you think that that's the case you should back up, you will start to try to build a case. You'll start to try to build a stack of evidence that can make this case justifiable. This is important. This is really important. Once you trace things back to the origin, you can rewire your perspective. We call this a paradigm shift. Yeah, a paradigm is a model. Think of it as a model. Think of it as the lens in which we see the world. If your whole life you've been taught that this color is gray, you will associate this color as gray. You will see it as gray. Someone has been taught this is a very light black. They'll call it a light black. You guys may see the same things but perceive it differently. Or perhaps you guys may even see it differently. It's very important. You guys remember the gold and white dress and some people saw blue? That was evidence that our perception is purely that. It is a perception. Because I had some people that said, this is blue. And I'm like, you're just pranking me, right? They're like, what are you talking about? Where is white and gold? And at that moment, I'm like, wow, the way we see the world is uniquely shaped by the workings of our mind. If the inner workings of our mind are relatively destructive, they're nihilistic, they're full of negativity, we will see the world that way. I've had moments, that's why I want to talk about it and share with you. I've had moments where I was so miserable. I was suffering. I was going through so much. I hated the world. I hated people. I hated myself. And I saw the world that way. And when I changed that and I started to just be better, I saw the world that way. The world was beautiful. The world was lovely. It was full of beauty. Lights, cameras, actions, sunlight, joy, gratitude. And in those moments, I'm like, wow. So the inner working of my mind can literally restructure the way I see this world. And that directly affects the actions I take. Step 1, identify, trace to the origin. Finally, replace it. You don't replace it with just blind positivity. You guys know I am completely against the whole positive mantra. Back up your belief in yourself. If so far in life you failed, if you really want to be positive, you got to try to back it up through your actions. Because you need to build a case study where eventually the actions you take significantly impact and changes your life as opposed to all the failures you have. So do not replace anything with blind positivity. If you're screwed up, you don't look in the mirror and say, I love myself, I'm beautiful. No. You say, well, look at me. I am screwed right now. I'm not the best right now. But that can change. A belief that's rooted in possibility instead of I'm not creative. We can switch that. Maybe I'm learning to explore my creativity every day. I'm getting more creative every day and every day and every day. See how powerful that is? So now let's dive into these invisible scripts that guide our actions. These are important. These are the subconscious rules that we live by without even realizing it. They dictate our decisions. They dictate our behaviors. And they even define success for us. Most of these invisible scripts, they're not even ours. Maybe you grew up in a family where stability was the ultimate goal, right? I for one, Vietnamese household, it was stability, 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 stability. No risk, risk off, risk off. So if that's the case, even though you dream of starting your own business, you may stay in a job because the script in your head says stability, 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 stability. But whose script is that? Is it yours? Is it something you inherited from someone else? Here's how you rewrite these scripts. Pay attention to resistance. Whenever, if ever you feel stuck or conflicted, then you pull back. You ask yourself, what rule am I following here? You can write it down if it helps. Then start to question it. Is this rule serving you? Or is this something that's holding you back? And then what you do is you replace it. You replace it with a script that aligns with your values, for example. Instead of something like stability is everything, you can just rewire it and say, well, I can create stability while pursuing my passion, right? This falls into the whole delusional stage of belief. If you think about all the greatest people in the world, even in moments of agony and pain, they were so delusional because they knew they would do it. They knew that they would get there. No matter what, whatever it took, they would get there. And they built a delusional belief. And they even tried to justify their own BS. But they didn't do it in a way where they began to self-destruct. They did it in a way to literally brainwash themselves to become a robotic machine that has only one aim, which is win. Remember that when you rewrite your scripts, you rewrite your life. I also talk about neuroplasticity a lot, and by no means am I a neurosurgeon, neurologist. I'm not too much of a neuroscientist. I don't like neuroscience. If anything, I like psychology a little bit more, but neuroplasticity is magnificent. If you get a chance to dive deeper into it on your own time, and look into it, but I'll try to break it down. So we'll shift gears a little bit and I'll talk a little bit about science. Your brain isn't fixed, it's malleable. Yeah. It can be molded like clay, constantly rewiring itself based on experiences, choices, and that is what we call neuroplasticity. And it's the key to just lasting transformation. I challenge you for 90 days, be extremely negative. Wake up, walk around like this with your shoulders down, head down, hate the world, don't talk to people, talk in a voice that's kind of like this. Be nervous, don't make eye contact, don't smile for 90 days. See what happens to you. Your actions shape everything, and your belief shapes everything. Because your brain is malleable. It will begin to perceive. Your brain is the observer. If you want to take one step further, you have to observe the observer. Your brain observes the environment. But if you really want to get deep and get to a point where you take control, you observe the brain that observes the environment. That's a whole nother story that we can get into one day. Your brain observes, and then your brain tries to create an understanding. Your brain will observe, okay, well, he's hunching his back. He doesn't like life. Life must suck. Okay, life sucks. Your brain is being malleable. Remember, it's malleable, and now it's being sculpted like Play-Doh, and now believes that life sucks. We can think of your brain kind of like a forest. Every thought you think is like walking a path through the trees. The more you think that thought, the more defined the path becomes. Over time, it becomes a road. Eventually, a highway. But here's the thing. You can always create new paths. You just have to stop walking the old ones. Here's how we can do it. First, identify the mental highway you want to close. Okay? This is super important. Sorry. I have to plug in my phone because it seems like it's low battery. Okay. First step is we identify the mental highway that we want to close. If it's the habit of, say, procrastination or self doubt, then we need to close it. And we need to consciously choose a new path. We always talk about replacing things or getting rid of things, but I like replacing habits and also replacing beliefs. If I believe this, then instead of getting rid of that belief, I'll just choose to believe something else. I replace it. So nothing has. I don't feel missing. I don't feel like I'm brand new. I've adopted something else. All right. If you say, well, I'll never finish this project, it's so hard. Well, you could just think, well, what's one thing I can do? Is there anything I can do? Despite how hard it is there anything I can do to where evidently if I do it, I can probably do the next one? Just stop walking old paths and create new paths and walk those new paths. Right? Soon enough, that old highway, that old path that you were on, it'll grow over with weeds. You'll be good. But I say all this because when we understand neuroplasticity, we understand that the wiring of our minds and the way that we are isn't supposed to be fixated that way. It can be changed. But like anything, if you want to change anything, it takes a little bit of practice and it requires time and definitely effort. If you want to rebuild your house, it's going to take time. You're going to have to tear down. You're going to have to do the demolition. You're going to have to destroy to rebuild. It's going to get messy. Then you're going to have to come and clean up all the mess. But after all that, after destroying, after cleaning up, after rebuilding, after repainting, you have a new home that you don't even recognize. Same thing with your mind. If you want to get rid of old habits, old behaviors, you have to go inside and you have to say, well, I have this. Let's remove, rebuild, knock it down. And it's like, okay, now that it's down, what do I want here? Is an empty space. And then you place in the empty space something that you want. A habit, a belief, a foundation, a framework that guides you, that helps you. When you do that, you've destroyed, rebuilt. Now you have to clean up the mess. Then you clean up the mess, and you clean up the mess by just sticking to the framework, slowly eradicating old beliefs, things that don't serve you, and never associating yourself with those things. And on a long enough time horizon, the mess will be cleaned up, and you'll have a new foundation, a new home, right? And I talk about this next one all the time. So that's neuroplasticity. And since we're talking about neuroplasticity, we might as well talk about something called dopamine. I talk about this all the time. Dopamine is the reward chemical. You get a rush of dopamine when, dopamine is just simply the feeling of reward. It's the thing that drives motivation. Dopamine is freaking hijacked nowadays by instant gratification. We doom scroll, dopamine. Right? And we can't even remember the last 5 videos we've watched. TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, we can't even remember. Short form content has taken over the world. People can't even watch long form content anymore. Some people don't even have the mental capacity to watch something longer than 30 minutes at all. Social media, binge watching shows, endless scrolling, a lot of these things, they flood your brain with dopamine. And what that does is it makes real, meaningful work feel boring because now you compare. It's like, why would I do something real and meaningful to achieve this feeling when I can achieve the same feeling by just scrolling? That's the danger of it, right? Because you'll get the same feeling through finishing a tough workout, sitting in the sauna for 45 minutes, going on a run, getting something done, reading a book, finishing a task. But it's like, why? It's so hard, so much effort. I could just feel the same way by scrolling. That's why it's so dangerous, because it's like, well, you start to compare. And the gap between what you have to do to what you get from doing is stretched out. When you look that way, you're like, well, I need to do this. In order to feel this, I'd rather just pick up my phone and feel it within seconds. Listen to me, if you want to transform your life, you need to take control of this dopamine system. So, if we're going to reset this system, we need to remove these artificial highs. For crying out loud, take a break from social media. Take a break from junk food. You guys have no idea the difference between taste and hunger. And the reason I say it is because I've reflected on my life and I've lived the same moments where I'd be craving chips or something sweet. And it's like, well, I'm not even hungry. Why am I craving it? Because my brain is hijacked by this dopamine. I simply am addicted to the taste of how it's going to feel when the sour gummy bears just hit my tongue and I bite down and it's so sugary and pleasant. My brain was hooked on that. And we got to take a break from whatever your brain is currently hooked on. Step 2, now we reintroduce real rewards. If you can engage in activities that provide long-term fulfillment, what'll happen is it's like learning a new skill. Take time to learn the piano, take time to ride a bike, take time to finish a book, take time to train, take time to work on your business, take time to work on your content. Do something that you really want. Learn about something that you truly enjoy learning about, that you're passionate about. And then you need to focus and you need to reflect because you need to pay attention to how your energy and how your focus just shifts a little bit. And then you're no longer chasing these quick fixes. You're no longer chasing these highs. But instead what happens is now you're here and you're like, wow, it's so much more rewarding if I just try instead of just getting a quick fix. Dopamine isn't the pursuit of happiness. It's happiness in the pursuit. So if you ever compare a day of mindless scrolling to actually getting some real work done, the dopamine is just different. The way you feel is just different because there is no pursuit as you're scrolling. It's hit after hit after hit, and that's a little bit intense. You get to a point where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm exhausted. You'll be mentally exhausted. If anyone here has sat in bed all day and scrolled on social media and did nothing else, you'll see how exhausting it is. But if anyone here has taken a day, a week, a month to actually work on a project, do something, learn something, get good at something, get better at something, you'll notice the reward is just way different. You feel like, wow, I want to feel this again because I promise you, growth and stagnation and comfort they're very much the same thing and they're very addicting. Comfortability, stagnation, that's comforting. And when you can experience what growth feels like, growth is very, very addicting in ways that you can't even comprehend. And if you've grown and if you've done something to grow, you know exactly what I mean when I say growth is addicting. Like it really is. Okay? These are just some things that you can really use to help change yourself. These personal development books that get played out. You're going to read 1, read 2, read 4, and you're like, holy crap, it's the same thing. You just have to figure out what works for you. What worked for me was a few frameworks, which was if everything seems so hard and if I feel like I suck at everything, if I feel like I fail and I'm such a failure, I'd say, I think I fail now. But then I'll extend it, right? I'll say, well, if I told myself in 5 or 10 years I can get exactly what I want, would that make me feel better? And I said, well, yeah. So it's just what begins to happen is I realize how I feel is predicated on the fear that I won't be able to. But the thing is, it's not a belief issue, it's a time horizon issue. I want it to happen now when it is supposed to take time to get there. And because I want it to happen now, since it's not happening now, I keep thinking I'm failing. Every day I think I'm failing. But if I just stretch the time horizon to where it's like, wait, relax, man. You're a couple days in and you have to play and the finish line is 5 years from now. Then everything resets. I'm like, okay, so right now it's normal to not have it. It's normal until that time comes. I mean, those are just frameworks. That's a framework that helped me, right? Another framework is getting through hard things. And I just say, if something is hard, why is it hard? And it's never really hard because we can do anything. Anytime something's hard, like getting up, going to the gym, finishing a workout, it's not hard. It's just I am so focused on the amount of energy and effort it's going to take to do it that it seems almost draining. Like I don't have it, but which is completely illogical because we have an infinite supply source of energy. We have this infinite energy source. It's almost like a freaking battery that charges itself. We are like cars, and as long as we breathe and live, our energy just recharges itself. It runs off itself. And so it really helped me because when I assume something's hard, I'm like, it's not hard. I just don't want to put that much time and energy and effort to do it because it seems like a lot. And after I do it, I'll feel like I'm drained. But the truth is, afterwards, if anything, I'll have more energy. Any single time that I thought going to the gym would make me feel worse, going to the gym would be so draining. After the workout, I'm like, well, damn, what else can I do today? I I really try to get the hardest things done in the morning. And for me, the hardest thing is going to the gym and training. I hate it. For anyone here watching, I do not enjoy training. It's something I absolutely hate. I really don't enjoy it. That's why it's the first thing I do. Because after I get the hardest thing out the way, it's like, well, what else can I do? Got that done. Well, what else? Am I going to make videos today? Am I going to read a book today? Am I going to run a marathon today? What else am I going to do? Am I going to study for 5 hours straight? Bring it on. I got the hardest thing out the way. And I did that first thing right in the morning when I woke up. I love getting the hardest things out the way because the momentum you get for the rest of the day is just insane. The snowball effect and the way that snowball just rolls down the hill, it's crazy. And try it if you don't believe me. It's a lot harder to wake up, not do anything hard, and then have to do something hard in the afternoon, as opposed to wake up, do the hard thing first, and then you realize everything throughout the day is easy. Here's an example. You can wake up an hour and a half, 2 hours earlier to go to the gym before work, or you can just wake up a few minutes before work, get ready, go to work, and then have to go to the gym after. The amount of energy you have to supply and allocate towards going to the gym once you get off work is a lot more than just waking up an hour earlier and getting it done, getting it out the way. I'll never forget this framework that's helped me. And I didn't read this in any personal development book. I heard this from Alex Hormozy, which is so many people want success that they would give anything just to win, just to be successful. But they won't even wake up an hour earlier. And that hit home for me because I'm like, wow, how many times in my life have I wanted success? Like I would do anything for it. Like I want it so bad, but I can't even wake up an hour earlier. Like if I can't even do that, I'm like, gosh, I don't even know what else I'm unable to do. And that was one of the things that restructured the way I thought. I need you to remember that growth isn't becoming someone else. It's becoming the best parts of you. You don't become anyone. You just discard parts of you that don't serve you. You discard parts of you that aren't necessarily beneficial. And that's it. And all the tools that you need to do that are already within you. You know enough. If you're still reading books and consuming content and your life hasn't changed, it's evident that you're not acting upon what you already know. And if you are acting upon what you already know and you see growth and you're going, okay, then I'd say that continuously reading, continuously learning is good because you're adding, discarding, and you're using. You have the ability to listen to a podcast, discard what's unnecessary, adopt what's necessary, and go because you're already doing it. But if you're someone that hasn't transformed their life, just don't. I'm telling you, stop consuming. All I'm going to challenge you to do is ask yourself, what's one belief, what's one script, and what's one habit that you'll start rewriting today? Like starting now. Just one. You have a life to live. And it'd be a damn shame for you to be 90 years old, die, and never see what you could have done. Not be able to live up to your potential. To be full of regret, old, wrinkly, minutes from dying, and look back in your prime years, your early 20s, early 30s, and say, I could have went so much harder, but you didn't. That regret will last an eternity, but the pain that you'll feel will only last for a moment. Remember that. Pain is a moment. Regret is forever. Don't live with that forever. Just deal with the moment of pain, the moment of hardship, and everything will be worth it. You don't need more tips or more hacks. You need to ask better questions. What is holding you back from trying? The judgment of others? What is it? Identify that. Fight it and freaking grow. Good luck. I wish you the best. I really do. Remember that as you climb this mountain, remember, it has no peak because you should be climbing for the sake of climbing, because the peak is the view you get along the way. You don't climb to the peak to see the view. You see the view as you climb. Climb for the sake of climbing. Go for the sake of continuing to grow. Keep learning, not for the sake of this constant consuming of information, but learn because you've acted upon important things already. Only add to the body of knowledge when you've taken action with what you have in that body. Unless you've taken action, do not keep learning that. Otherwise, the cycle will stay the same, and the same, and the same, and you'll be reliving the same cycle until you learn a lesson. That's life. Life will take us out of something once we learn the lesson and can get out of that cycle. No matter how hard, no matter how used to it we are. And then that's when we transform. I wish you the best, man. Good luck.